everyone. Welcome back to the Craft Parenting Podcast, a podcast about two Cincinnati craft beer lovers with a parenting problem. My name is Joe Ludwig, and with me is my lovely wife and co-host, Caroline. How's it going, Caroline?
Pretty good. We just kind of abandoned the children with your brother and sister-in-law and said bye. So hopefully everybody's okay.
And surprise, surprise, we ended up at a brewery.
What? We never end up at a brewery when we don't have the kids.
And more specifically, we're in the brew deck and with a very special guest who's been on the podcast before, Brock.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah. Do you want to just...
I'm back.
You're back, yeah. We met you at a brewery last time we met you.
We did, yeah. It was we were in Silverton at High Green.
Yep, High Green.
Yeah.
So, but now we're at the brewery that I work for now, so that's even better.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Let's see here. I am a father of two. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And I've been married to my wife for coming up on 16 years here on the 19th of May, actually. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. We live over in the Madisonville area. And for the past, 6 years, I think, I've been a stay-at-home dad up until the beginning of this year. And I took on the role here at Deadlow Brewing as the event coordinator. So life has gotten interesting since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do remember you saying that maybe you're going to try to look and see if you could get like a part-time gig or something. So, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. And we're just going to have a conversation. There's no real agenda.
That's what I love about your podcast.
It's just parents talking about life and stuff.
Yeah. So
and beer. Mostly beer.
But first, we have some beer in front of us. I have some awesome drinks in front of us.
I need that guitar guy behind me whenever I'm getting ready to pour me a beer. That just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's a stock
I love
sound that I
found.
Yeah, I think Joe spent 3 days combing through some database of all this guitar stuff, and he had 10 different tracks that he had me listen to, and I'm like, I don't know. They all sound the same to me.
I was just waiting for you to say that. So you want to know what I'm drinking?
Yeah, what are you drinking?
Yeah, so I got a wonderful pour of the Lagome Scandinavian Farmhouse Ale. This has become one of the more popular beers out here at the brewery.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that we started canning it.
Nice. I will have to get a pack of that to take home.
Yeah. So.
And by I mean Joe.
Yeah, we started canning that. We started canning our Golden Norse Ale, which is kind of a collab deal with NKU. We're actually the official brewery of NKU.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
So we host when they have their basketball season going. The coaches show takes place here on Tuesday nights. So that's a lot of fun to have them here, and they bring in different guests and stuff, and that's all done on 15:30 a.m. So during basketball season, that's where everybody comes to hang out to listen to the coaches talk about their games. So
fun.
And then our session IPA was the other one that we had canned as well. So yeah, you can find those three along with the Phoenix Mexican lager and the Deadlow Light lager at the most of the grocery stores. Not the grocery stores, I take that back. Most of the smaller marts and stuff like that. We haven't actually got into the bigger stuff because we self-distribute because we are just a tiny little place that's trying to get bigger.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere.
Right.
You do have to start somewhere, yeah. And Deadlow is an interesting brewery because, and then my goal was to write about it and blog about it.
We got to 11. And then we got sidetracked before we.
I didn't write about 11.
Don't drink a lot of beer. It was don't eat a lot of food. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So the food is just, it's phenomenal. And then of course the brew house is in a separate building, so it's kind of hidden. So it has a very restaurant-y feel, but you just happen to brew your own beer, which is awesome. I love that. I think more people should do that.
Well, I mean, this place originally was an event center, so I mean, there was never a brewery on site. It was
definitely.
It was just a reception hall type of place.
You have to work with what you have for sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't a criticism. It was
no, yeah.
it was just an observation that the food was just so good. And then the beer was awesome too, but it just had it has a restaurant feel. And then you just built this phenomenal deck out here.
Right. Yeah.
So a brand new deck. Or you expanded it recently, I think.
We did. Yeah. It was opened up about I think it was like the end of last summer. That it opened up. It almost doubles our footprint of what the inside holds. So it's a big patio deck.
Yeah.
I mean, before it was literally just like a grassy hill that came off of the concrete that runs along the side of the brew house. So yeah.
No need to worry about trimming the bushes so your deck looks bigger because it looks big as it is.
Yeah. Definitely. But it's a nice space. It's definitely been packed already. We've had some scatterings of nice days, so that's definitely drawn people out here for just a good old time. And then on top of that, with all the stuff I'm doing event coordinating wise, I get people asking to rent the space and that sort of thing as well. So that makes it even that much more fun to bring people in.
Yeah, that's one of the annoyances but joys about Cincinnati is the weather changes day to day, where you'll have like a 32-degree day and then you'll have like a 65 or 70-degree day right after it. But if you have a phenomenal outdoor space, people are going to be like, oh, the weather's really nice today. It might be the middle of April, but I'm going to go here because I know I can get some food and sit on the deck.
Yep.
And actually spend some time outside before everything gets cold again.
Spring is definitely like that in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, you've got winter and then false spring and then super cold winter and then like false spring again and then mud season.
Yeah.
And then you finally get like
we're definitely in mud season with all the rain that we got yesterday.
Well, with all the rain that we have going on even today, it's like, we had the flying pig this morning and I was actually in all of that, not as a runner, but I run a bacon station with a bunch of people in Marymount.
Oh, nice.
And so we hand out like 178 pounds of bacon and we were soaking wet, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Was it raining?
Oh yeah, it was pouring.
The rain that we saw from the comfort of our house, Brock was outside in.
I didn't look at the
torrential downpour that went by your house.
Yeah. It was lightning. It was so bad that Caroline was searching for her eye mask.
Yeah. Because
we have a big window in in the master bedroom or whatever, and she faces that when she sleeps. And she's like, "I need an eye mask." There's just flash.
Yeah, it was getting rough out there. That's for sure.
And they all ran, huh?
Yeah, they did. They had told everybody to sort of like shelter in place if you felt like you needed to, that kind of thing. But they weren't stopped. They didn't stop the official clock. It kept running. So if you were trying to qualify for like the Boston Marathon or some other marathon, like it was on you to keep going. So there was some pretty wet people. I mean, the female runner, the winner, she came through Marymount heading towards Cincinnati, back towards town at about the hour and 27 mark of the race. So she was moving.
I mean, I feel like if there would have been like high winds or like a tornado warning along with a thunderstorm, they might have been more like, hey, let's put a pause on everybody.
I mean,
but because it was just the rain, I mean, you're running. You can outrun lightning. It's fine.
I mean, yeah, they don't have anything on them like that would attract lightning necessarily.
Yeah, just don't hug trees or really tall buildings and you'll be fine.
Exactly. You're good to go.
Yeah, so I guess that's always a possibility, but I don't remember the flying pig, it raining. I always remember it being...
They said this was one of the worst in the 25 years that they've been doing it. So
Yeah, it's the time of year where everything's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a possibility that it could do that. And if you're training for it, if you're like really into it, you run in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Like you run no matter what. Snow, I mean, you're training all year for it. I say this like I do it. But,
we know people who do, and that's about as close as we get to that.
We did do the Christian Moorline Beer Series, which is 5Ks.
Yeah.
Two 5Ks in a 1 mile run.
Yeah. Though to derail us for a second, even though we haven't talked about our beers yet.
I know
we
got derailed.
There was a woman who made a TikTok, and she was like, when I was going on dating apps, I was really nervous that I was going to find somebody and they were going to be a serial killer. Well, then I found someone who was a marathon runner, And this is way worse because you've got to get up early. You've got to hold all their gear. You've got to meet them at some of the stops to like make sure they have supplies.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm glad that we don't do that.
And
do we
stand
need to
out
be more
in torrential downpours.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still run. Although I can't imagine, like, if something did happen where there was like a situation with a tornado or whatever, how would you bring all those people in?
You can't.
Like, you would just, I mean, you have the bikers and stuff. I'm sure they have radio.
Yeah. Well, typically too, I mean, they kept a pretty close eye on the weather. I think if it would have got to that point, they would have cut it. I just think it was like, all right, this is the thunderstorm. We can handle this. And that's what they ended up.
Well, I mean, like in the middle, like of the race, like
sure.
What happened if it turned?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Not my job.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So I am almost done with, I might have to run in and get another beer. Not busser or not booster?
It's a cot booster.
Cot booster. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain what it is?
Yes. Because
Okay.
I didn't
you
take
had a
notes.
really good explanation for what
Yeah.
it was.
So this recipe for it is actually an old world German recipe. It was outlawed during World War II. It was a very just well-known popular beer over there, and the Nazis outlawed it from being made. And it's only recently just kind of come back into production again. And our head brewer, Chris Cooper, really wanted to make it. He really liked just the recipe of it and put it together. And it's very, it's on point.
So basically with every sip of this, I'm giving the finger to Nazis. I am totally down for that.
They outlawed, didn't they outlaw Gozas?
They
as well?
probably outlawed.
What
They
didn't they
outlawed
outlaw?
a bunch of stupid stuff.
Well, not they, like the Nazis, like they, Germany. I don't know what
Who
year.
knows?
Goza's the only thing you're allowed to
They're
brew
very
in.
particular about their beer, and Goza has,
No,
there's the whole Reinheitsgebot,
Mm-hmm.
Reinheitsgebot, which is the German purity law for
Yeah.
beer.
But to my remembrance, Goza is the only style outside of the Reinheitsgebot that you're still allowed to brew in Germany.
Yes, because it has sea salt and coriander in it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sneak you one that's in a bright tank off to our left, right. That is part of Mother's Day here.
I'm so excited about that.
Oh, yeah. That is definitely not Reinheitsgebot.
No, it's not. But
it is. It's a Goza.
It is a Goza, yeah.
Yeah, but
for those who don't know.
So what notes are you picking up from the Cot Booster?
so it's a really nice smooth lager. It's a little malty, and it's like a golden color. It's really clear. I can actually see Joe's face through it.
Yeah.
And
Really nice head, really nice carbonation.
Yeah, and it's so smooth. I could drink like 10 of these and then be in major trouble.
Yeah, it's a crushable, that's for sure.
Do you remember the ABV on that?
I don't think it's much more than
It's not too much.
Yeah, it's like a 5.3, I think.
I also want to say 5.3, so I'm going to go with.
Well, I can look it up later.
It is
I don't even-
5.8%.
I was so close.
We were so close. I took a picture of the board
Okay.
because I knew you'd ask questions like this.
And I am drinking a oldie but goodie Doppelbock. And what is it called? The knockdown?
The double down Doppelbock.
The double down Doppelbock.
Yep.
This is a beer brewed for Bachfest.
I'm pretty sure that I had this at Bachfest.
Yeah, because
The Gnome came on Saturday, and then when we were there on Sunday, they had like 4 beers available.
Oh, wow.
So we blame the Gnome for that one, but it was definitely not his fault. It was our fault for not showing up until Sunday. But they still had Alexandria, Deadlow, and I want to say like 1 or 2 other ones, maybe Cartridge. I don't know. I'm going to make stuff up now.
It's our truth.
But I was like, I know if I get Deadlow, it's going to be really good. And it was.
Yeah, it honestly is a popular one, and if I had my vote, I'd keep it on all year round because it's just that good.
That's the thing. Like, if you talk to a lot of beer people in Cincinnati, they're like, Bach beers are so delicious, but as soon as Bachfest is over, nobody orders it.
They're gone, yeah.
So everybody's like, I want to get it off my tap as soon as Bachfest is done, if possible. Meanwhile, I'm like, Bach beer all year round, and like, I will buy your Bach beer in May because it's so yummy, and I would love more of it.
I would imagine, just based on what I think we have out in the cooler, we're probably good for another couple months on it, possibly, depending on the popularity of people coming in after hearing this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we have so many listeners.
We make millions of dollars a year off this podcast. I think that was our joke on our 100th episode.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys like them.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, Chris Cooper is our head brewer. He started with us last June. He graduated from Cincy State that spring as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and he had been working with 50 West, and we were looking for a head brewer, and he came on, and he's done some amazing stuff with just all different types of beers, and he's very open to trying to come up with more unique things,
Mm-hmm.
and we've just had a lot of fun. I mean, like this goza that I'm going to have you guys try. It's a rose petal goza. I mean, we put 7 pounds of rose petals, steep them
Mm-hmm.
to make it, and it's really tasty. There's a Roush beer that's coming out for Father's Day. That's a smoky lager and stuff.
And not a lot of breweries make those, but it's another one of those, it's probably a little bit more polarizing than a Bach beer as far as style goes.
It's definitely a niche, depending on how smoky it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely a niche. But for Father's Day, that's, you typically grill out. You typically, you're into the cigars. I'm sure
Yes.
it's really good.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah, definitely.
getting that smoke.
Mm-hmm.
But
Smoky
he
flavor.
likes that stuff. And I think that's one of the fun things about having multiple taps. We have 15 taps, I believe, in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fun to have your flagship stuff, which is our 5 different ones that we've canned,
Yeah.
and then to just rotate through different different styles and see what can come up. I mean, when I got hired on, the owners were telling me, oh yeah, we're Lebanese background. I'm like, that's really cool, and they were talking about how proud they were to be a part of the Lebanese family and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I was like, man, I wonder if there's any style of Lebanese beer. And so
Mhm.
I started researching. I was telling Coop about it, and we started looking around, and he was able to come up with a recipe for a Lebanese wit beer
Oh, nice.
that we're going to release here later this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got pomegranate and orange zest in it, and this really interesting spice that's actually a Lebanese spice with it as well. And we're just really excited about it. It's going to be just a neat way to honor the owners
Mm-hmm.
and all the hard work that they did to even get this place opened
Mm-hmm.
just before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
'Cause that happened 6 months before, and then they basically grinded through until here we are now, and we're doing really well as a brewery that was able to make it through the pandemic.
Yeah. I'm going to have to try that one. I mean, I love me most wheat beers too.
It's not out yet, right?
It's not out yet, no.
Yeah.
It might be in one of the fermenters behind you, but I'm not positive. Maybe when we pause to go get another beer, I'll look and see.
Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about last time we met at High Green, and we were talking about stay-at-home dad life and burning your fence with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you mentioned kind of briefly that you may be looking for a part-time gig. So
Yeah.
can you kind of talk about that transition from a stay-at-home dad to a now working dad?
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, when I met you guys and we had that conversation, there was definitely what am I going to be doing? That kind of deal.
Mhm.
I actually got really big back into driving for Uber for a while and was doing really well with that, but needed something a little bit more sustainable, something that was going to really hold. And
Yeah.
I tried getting I was like, you know what? I want to get into the beer industry in some way. And I looked around for different things. I started putting feelers out, social media background, that kind of thing. And definitely had a lot of people who were interested, but they had either just hired somebody and were waiting to see how that was going to pan out, or they were not in the process of even looking. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, fine. So come November, Deadlow put out on Instagram that they were looking for an event coordinator.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I've got background in that because, like I told you guys, I've helped with leading the convention for the National At-Home Dad Network, Home Dad Con, for
Yeah.
the past 3 years. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I can translate that into an event coordinator position because they're very similar.
Yeah.
So
Just a lot fewer people.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Definitely. A lot more expanded events over a time period, too.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I put in my resume and kind of just waited back to here and got an interview. There was 13 people that actually put in for it.
Mhm.
And during the interview, one of the things that they were telling me was that after they hired the event coordinator, they were going to go after a social media and marketing person. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I got that background, too.
Mhm.
So I just kind of kept that in the back, if this doesn't work out, I can put in for that.
Mhm.
So went through the interview process. They actually passed on me.
Mhm.
And then I was like, well, I want to go in for the social media one. So they're like, all right. So they brought me in. The first one was a Zoom call, by the way, which I find those to be super awkward.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I just recently got a new job since we last talked as well, and it was mostly Zoom.
Yeah.
And they brought me in for a face-to-face and stuff. But
it's better than a phone interview because at least you can see when it looks like they're about to start talking. But yeah, it's still kind of like, do you talk or do I talk?
Yeah.
And
well, it's awkward too when you've been out of the workforce for so long, and the first thing you get
just
is
interviews in general are awkward.
Right. And I mean, I felt very confident in being able to talk to people about what I've been doing and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with all stay-at-home dads. I mean, some of them, they're very uncomfortable with, having that sit-down interview.
it's hard to people if you have only been with small people.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Because they just ask tons of questions, and you just give them short answers or don't talk to them at all.
Here.
There's
look,
a butterfly.
There's a train over there.
A squirrel.
Bye.
So, so anyway, they passed on me. I got the interview for the social media. I actually got to come in face-to-face and talk with some of the guys, and I got to meet Coop for the first time, and they really liked me. And that one, I'm like, all right, like, this seemed like it was a better interview than the first one. Like, this has got to stick.
Yeah.
And waited about a week, and I got another phone call, and they said, okay, listen, we have done all of our interviews and things like that. The three guys that we had to go through for the event coordinator, it was a combination of one wasn't a good fit, one wasn't a good interview, and the other one wanted way too much money to do the job.
Yeah.
They're like, then we went and interviewed you for social media and brought another person in, and we feel like you would do better at the event coordinating, and they would do really good at social media, and you two would work really well together as a team. And I'm like, so what are we doing? And so they're like, well, we're throwing you a curveball. We're re-offering you the event coordinator position. And I was like, okay, like I literally thought that was off the table, but let's figure this out. And so, I ended up taking that job, and it's been it's been a good roller coaster, but it's been a roller coaster nonetheless. And I'm only like 4 months into it. So
when I know it's a bit disconcerting when you go in for one interview, and then for me it's like I found out halfway through the interview, oh yeah, by the way, you're interviewing for 2 different positions right now, and I was like, what? I thought we were only talking about one position, so now I got to reformat how I'm going to think about stuff, because which one of these roles do I want more, or which one do I want to talk about?
It's very discombobulating.
Yeah.
I feel like that's happening more and more though with interviews. Like I have a buddy that he works for the IRS downtown and stuff, and he was going for more of the position where you actually are like, you get a badge and you get a gun, like they have like that portion of it. And he interviewed, and he thought he was interviewing for the Cincinnati location, and they're like, oh no, all we got is Cleveland. And he was like, fine. So he ended up taking it and got it and went and did like a training. And then when he graduated, apparently like something opened up here. And so he actually got to be in Cincinnati after all. But he was like ready to like put his house up on the market and everything. And now he gets to stay.
It's good that he didn't then.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
But I mean, that's the kind of thing. It's like, that is nerve wracking.
Yeah.
When, you think it's going one way and they completely just like hijack it a different direction. Yeah,
it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm glad that you like me and really want me as a person, but now I need to like totally like put on the brakes and figure out how I'm going from here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to interview and to get a new job, especially you were in the finance world.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was a desk job.
It was, yeah.
You're crunching numbers.
I think the closest thing you have to a desk here is the bar.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bar downstairs in the riverfront room is usually where I put my laptop and work on things. So it's a real rough place to have.
How has that transitioned? By the way I imagine finance people is the way Michael Scott imagines it, where you just crunch the numbers and you hit the this keyboard and go crunch. So that's how I imagine finance people.
Well, luckily with my position, I wasn't really crunching the numbers. I was taking phone calls for people, talking to them about their 401ks.
Oh, okay.
So there wasn't as much.
Worse.
Yes, there wasn't a whole lot of crunching numbers. It was more of like, let me explain to you how this works.
Yeah.
Let me also explain to you that I didn't steal your money. Let me also explain to you why it is that maybe you can't have your money, and please don't be angry with me. That's something that was set in place by somebody else. But yeah, so that was more what I got to deal with.
It's still you're sitting at a desk for 8 hours.
I was
which is what
sitting
I
at
do.
a desk.
This is more of a, you're up and moving, you're organizing,
You're
calendaring,
Yeah, this job is definitely a lot more entertaining because I come in here, I answer emails, I make phone calls to help give better clarification for folks who have, trying to figure out what they want to do with a party, whether it be birthday, retirement, wedding rehearsals, like all that stuff. And just walking them through like, all right, like what does this look like? How much are you going to have to pay? What do you want? What other little extras do you want to bring in? Do you want to bring in your own DJ, that kind of stuff? Because, we don't have some of those things here. And so, we've had a little bit of everything as far as requests go for stuff. And it's like, all right, can I do this? Can I not do this? And be able to give a reason that isn't going to have a lot of pushback. And I really haven't had a lot of pushback, which is nice. And I've been able to accommodate for most things. So, but the really cool thing is here, I mean, like I said, this is restaurant forward. So when it's busy like this, it's very difficult to actually give approval to rent out restaurant space because those tables turn all day long. Yeah. So what I end up doing is explaining that. And then at the same time, be like, hey, we've got this amazing room downstairs. It's called the Riverfront Room. It's got its own private bar, bathrooms, private entrance, like just a nice space. It's not going to be like a lot of people like, oh, like we want a space that's like got windows or you can come out on the patio. It's like, yeah, don't really have quite that. Like, but I can guarantee you, like, you'll like the space. And every time they come down, they're always like, wow, like, it's such a neat space because one of the really cool pieces down there is we have a mural that wraps 3/4 of the room, and it's of a picture from 1848 of the riverfront.
Oh, nice.
And so it's the oldest picture of the riverfront. It's also the picture that has the most like riverboats in it historically. And we're only like the 6th company to actually get permission to reproduce that picture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See, and this is where like I get really jealous because when we were planning our wedding, it was 2014 and 2015. There were like 10 breweries that were open.
Wow.
I don't even know if Ryan Geist
It was like 25.
But like I don't even know if Rheingeist really had like
they did not have
an event space
yet.
They
did not know.
And so like when we were looking for places to have our rehearsal dinner, it was, well, there's this reception hall that has a smaller room that we can use, or let's go to Mecklenburg Gardens. But when we looked at that space, it was like the food was okay. It was actually, the food was pretty good, but the event space was definitely very German and very dated. So while like the grandparents would have loved it, it was like, I don't know if I really want photos with a bunch of old white guys in weird garb on the walls. Because they had like
all the German like brewery
we
barons.
We were doing that for rehearsal dinner.
That was for a rehearsal dinner. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did I say reception? I totally meant rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
Because our wedding space was already planned out. Like we had no choice on that one. But
I find that people want to come here for a rehearsal dinner because it's so laid back.
Yeah.
Like the stress of like, all right, we just walked through like our wedding rehearsal. And of course, tomorrow is going to be super stressful because it's the wedding. And then we got their wedding reception. And I find that every time we've had a rehearsal dinner here, it's usually super laid back. Everybody's just chilling out. And I'll walk around usually just to say hi to the bride and groom real quick and just check in with them. And they're just like, man, I'm so glad that like this is going so smoothly. And like, I don't know, like to me, like that's a huge compliment when someone's like, I'm just relaxed. Like,
yeah,
it's like, that's what I want you to be. Like, I want you to have fun and be relaxed. And our staff here are amazing at helping provide that. And so I couldn't be more happier, honestly, in that with it.
Yeah, staff makes a big difference too.
Yeah, definitely.
Hello, this is Morgan Freeman, and you are listening to the Craft Parenting Podcast with Joe and Caroline. Stay tuned for more.
Hey everyone, Joe Ludwig here with the one and only Caroline.
Hey!
Before we get to the main topic of today's episode, we wanted to pause briefly and tell you about how you can support the show.
So if you enjoy listening to the podcast and reading our blog posts every week, then you now have the opportunity to support the show through Buy Me a Coffee. Here's what you need to know. It's super easy to do. You don't have to set up an account to contribute. You have options. Send us a one-time donation or sign up as a member to contribute on a monthly or yearly basis. Plus, you can unlock exclusive content.
To learn more about how you can support the Craft Parenting Podcast through Buy Me a Coffee, click the link in the show notes. And now, back to the show.
So we got more beers. Joe is drinking the Farmhouse. Brock is drinking the Bachfest. And I have the Schwarz beer. And when I was carrying them in, it was hard to tell the Schwarz beer and the Bach apart. Except now that the sun is filtering through the Bach, it looks like red.
Yes.
Versus the Schwarz beer is still
Black.
very much black.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And I'm drinking the Farmhouse, which is not a style I usually go for, but I'm here for it.
I have been here for it since Listerman made it their International Women's Day beer one year, where they had the base and they had 2 different variants on it, and they were all phenomenal.
Like I said, that's one you can get in cans, and there's a reason for why we did a can for it.
Yeah, we will take it home.
Do you have cans on site?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can come into the brewery, and we've got a cooler with all the cans, so definitely get 6 packs of that.
Yeah, we'll get a 6-pack. We'll get probably a couple 6-packs.
Yeah.
You mentioned
We also do
quite a few.
16-ounce growlers, 32-ounce, and then we've also do the 64 growlers.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we actually have some holes in the beer fridge now. We ended up with no holes in the beer fridge after our 100th anniversary, our 100th episode spectacular.
Yeah.
Because people brought us a lot of beer.
There you go.
But we haven't bought as much beer since then, and I've been better about trying to drink a beer every other night to help.
That sounds
Lean
like
out the beer
that
fridge.
sounds like quite the sacrifice.
It is. Well, I opened up last night. I opened up our winter warmer from 2017,
Oh.
and it still held up.
Where is it from?
Like we homebrewed it.
Oh, there you go.
But it still has a bit of a kick to it because when it was the first beer that we adjuncted, and Alan at Listerman told us, "Oh yeah, just throw a couple cinnamon sticks in a jar of vodka, and have that sit right next to your fermenter, and when you're ready to bottle
cinnamon, nutmeg.
Yeah,
it was like Christmassy spices.
Yeah, maybe like.
So he suggested put it in a jar of vodka,
and then just have it sit next to your fermenter, and when you're ready to bottle or keg, just pour a bit into it to taste. Well,
it's a little too much vodka, I think.
When I poured it in to taste, because Joe didn't want to be the one that did it, I had a cold. So in order for me to get the spices, I poured in a little too much. That's still really good, though.
Maybe that's why it held up.
Yeah.
It does have that burn, like that liquor burn. It's a good winter warmer.
Yeah.
I feel like a winter warmer needs to have a little bit of boozy burn, man. That's part of it.
Yeah, it was something. I think we still have some.
We might. We probably do.
Oh, I know what I was going to tell you guys, too, back a while back. So just to give you a little bit of idea on the size of this brew house and like what we do here at Deadlow. So this is a 10-barrel brew house, slaughter ton, with 5 20-barrel fermenters and one 10-barrel, and then the bright tanks are both 20 barrel.
Nice.
So definitely can put out a decent amount of beer in a year.
Yeah.
In batch wise.
Yeah, and I think most of your fermenters have stuff in them right now.
Most of them do. Yep. Some of them are just cleaned and closed up type of deal. So, but yeah, and then our canning is actually done through Karakin.
Oh, nice.
So they're actually picking up a lot of people, it seems like, for canning, but we just don't have the facility for it here. So
yeah.
So they can our beers for us.
Well, and it's something that we've talked about before on the podcast. It's a good symbiotic relationship where like they're not going to be using their canning line all the time, and you guys don't necessarily need to have a canning line on site, and so you rent out their canning line. You don't have to put in the big financial strain of purchasing one, and then they get a little bit of boost of we bought the thing, and now we get a little bit of kickback from other people using it.
Yeah, and they're not far from us either, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, typically we rent a U-Haul, go pick it up. It's like, a one-day deal, so it's not.
Do
not
they do the labor too?
Yeah, they do all the they brew it down there, can it down there, label it, all that jazz.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep, gets packed. So it comes to us fully packed in cases, and we put it in the coolers and rotate through it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. We'll take some home. I don't know how much, but we have room in the beer fridge, as Caroline said.
Yeah. And we have some mystery West Virginia beers that ended up in our fridge.
I don't know how that happened.
Nobody wants to lay claim to those.
That sounds like
I'm pretty sure it was Julia.
McCoy situation right there.
Well, so Marco and the gnome and the gnarly gnome and the Cincy Brews Traveler and a few other people went to West Virginia and brought home like cases and cases of beer.
Oh.
So they're like all over the cases and cases of beer that they have because they only drank through like half of it.
Yeah.
So when they were like, you guys are having a beer share, we will just bring a bunch of beer and then not take it home. So we ended up with a few things in our fridge.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
It's not. And the thing is, like, it's something that they are a little bit over because they've had a bunch of it. But to us, it's new. So we are more inclined to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to grab this thing versus they're like, oh, this is the 10th time that I'm drinking this. And I would like something a little bit different on my palate.
Yeah.
Not because it's bad beer. It's just.
I haven't had any of it.
I did. I brought one to a party. It was pretty good.
I know that there's a Blondale. There's. What else is there?
I mean, we talked about the fact that we could probably have like a mini episode of, hey, look at all this beer that ended up in our fridge. Let's just drink it.
That sounds like a good problem to have.
But yeah, so we talked about the beer that we just got.
The Schwartz beer is really roasty and delicious, and I am so glad that I got it.
And the Farmhouse, it doesn't have a ton of funk, but it's just like an ale. It's really good. Because Farmhouse it can be a spectrum.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one's got like stone fruit notes and honey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a little
kind
more
of
smooth.
sweet with the honey. It's
Yep.
kind of like we did like a honey brown, like homebrew a while back with brown sugar. We had a
Mhm.
brown sugar. This isn't quite that, but it kind of reminds me of it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Something like that. It's definitely not a brown ale. It's definitely a Farmhouse, but it's really good.
Hmm.
Before we took a break and we derailed, we were talking about your transition from a stay-at-home dad to a working dad. So how has that transition been for you? I know your kids are not as young as ours, so they're in school and stuff. I mean, we talked about it in the last episode.
Yeah.
You weren't like twiddling your thumbs as a stay-at-home dad.
No,
you were definitely busy.
I've never been twiddling my thumbs. That's
You
for
were
sure.
you were busy burning your friends with a flamethrower.
I know, and now we're doing a remodel in our basement, so it just constantly keeps happening.
Sorry,
But-
I got a photo of our babysitter sleeping on the job.
Oh, busted! Is that from the wife of?
Yeah, that's from his wifey.
Like, look at him. He said he was gonna do this. Now here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But
so
yes,
how has that transition been? I mean, you've always been busy, but how has that transition been?
it has definitely changed a few things within like the family dynamic because, before it would be like I would be doing stuff at the house and when the kids were at school, and now it's like I get up with the kids like I normally do, get them around, drop them off at school. I typically will come here to the brewery because I don't want to be at home just because I want to be in that mindset of work.
Yeah.
I can work from home if I want to. Doesn't matter. Usually on Mondays I do just kind of stick around home because I can balance both like getting things done that didn't get done over the weekend because I'm doing events.
Yeah.
And so sort of Sunday, Monday is like kind of my weekend in a lot of ways.
Well, it's you can have your laptop on, not that you necessarily do this, but it's like you can have your laptop on the dryer and be doing things.
Yeah.
And then swap the laundry and then go back and work. So it's like, okay, I have this 2-minute break where I swapped the laundry. I got a house thing done.
Right.
And then I can go back to doing whatever it is that I need to do.
So I do a lot of that. And then typically I'm still in charge of picking up the kids for the most part. My wife was like, are there days that you need to stay later than normal? And so picked a couple of days that worked well with her schedule. So there are 2 days during the week where I stick around here a little bit later than normal, which is nice. And I can get things done. I can just like have meetings with folks who are like, hey, like I can only meet at this time after work. And so it's kind of nice to be able to say, hey, like, all right, meet me at the brewery at 4 or 5 and we'll talk about your event and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then too, like just to be able to be here to set up different events like tables and stuff like that, just to kind of help with the staff. So like, it's like the table arrangement is set up. Like all you got to deal with is like the buffet table and the bar. Like those two things, which are super important to make sure that those are ready to go when the guests get here.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry about like, all right, like what should be the layout of the room when I'm the person who had the conversations with the client about where the layout of the room is going to be.
Yeah. And it helps your relationship with your staff as far as like, hey, I am down here in the trenches with you. I'm not just saying, this is what you're going to do. Go do the thing while I sit up on my high tower.
Yeah, and then the other part of it too is just the balance that my wife and I have with me working out of the house now is that, like, for a while, and I still get this every once in a while, where it's like, I gotta go to, like, she'll come home and I'm like, I gotta go to the brewery. Like, so we, like, 2 ships passing in the night sometimes. Yeah. And I think a lot of parents probably experience that, or even, like, roommate syndrome. You're just like, oh, that's my roommate. Like, we got married, but still.
We sleep in the same bed, but that's like the only time that I really see you.
Yeah.
That's the retail life, I feel like.
Yeah, my cuddle time is usually watching TikToks and Instagram Reels while cuddled up next to you in bed. We just get a chance to giggle and, like, whatnot. And we definitely take advantage of that because we find great joy in spending. It's like, I don't want to sit in front of a TV and watch a show, but if I can be entertained by watching a comedian on TikTok or something like that, I'll do that. So we there's definitely a very good just balance that her and I have. She's very supportive of what I'm doing. I've always been very supportive of what she's doing. And so, like, she's finding that she has to shift some of that sometimes. And though it's very frustrating for her because she's like, I'm dealing with this, but I know you got to go. She's like, you got to go. Like, go take care of what you're doing. Like, this is what we want to do. And it's been very beneficial for our family. Like I was saying, like, you know, we were able to actually, like, do a renovation on our basement to put in a full-size bathroom because of me being able to take this job on. Yeah. Which is huge because we have 2 kiddos and one's, like, 3 years from being a teenager. And it's like, I'd like to have a second bathroom so I don't have to deal with him.
Yeah. Well, that's like, so we definitely upgraded when we got our house. A little bit too much, maybe, but we'll grow into it eventually. And because it's 3.5 bathrooms and 4 bedrooms, but a 5th bedroom if you take a storage room downstairs and throw a bed in it because somebody wants to live on their own. And that's what they were doing. So, like, one of the teens lived in the basement and they had a full bathroom down there. So it's like, I got this whole bathroom that I don't know what we're going to do with. Yeah. But it exists.
I mean, we typically down in the basement, we've got a room that we call, like, our guest bedroom. And that's why we were like, we really want a bathroom for down there so that, like, when my parents come to visit or our friends come to visit, like, they don't have to come upstairs to use the bathroom. Like, there's one really nice bathroom downstairs that has a very, like, hotel, like, really nice upscale vibe to it. And my wife went all out on designing it, and she's done an amazing job with it. Like, rainfall and waterfall showers with, like, the 4 jet sprayer, like, coming at you. I mean, it's a nice shower head. Wow. I can't wait till we, like, get it all installed and everything, because I'm just like, I'm gonna go take a half-hour shower. I'll see you later. Yeah. We're both gonna be yelling at each other, you done in there yet?
But it's gonna be better than the master shower.
Well, we don't even have a master shower. Like, our one upstairs is actually very much like 1942 mint and pink tile. And,
that's a classic.
Super old, and so that we told the kids, we're like, this is your bathroom now.
we got very lucky when we bought our first house because in the neighborhood you have 4 options for color for one of your bathrooms. It's pink, which is the most popular. Yep. Or blue, or yellow, or mint green. And we ended up with mint green, which out of the 4 of those is my favorite.
Well, there you go.
Because it's the least sucky.
Yeah, the first house, we remodeled quite a bit. We did a lot of it ourselves, like the guest bathroom. We tore up the tile. We kept the mint green, but we painted. It all looked good because we had a friend who had the same layout as us. Same layout, a street over.
But he had the pink tub, and he decided that he was going to get rid of the pink tub. But the problem is they don't make tubs that size anymore. So after he got the pink tub out of his bathroom and went to order a new tub, he realized that everything was going to be smaller. Oh. So he was going to have to redo the walls to account for this now smaller tub. And he was like, I really wish I would have just kept the thing in there and reglazed it. Because
you can
it was a pain in my ass.
I mean, we decided not to do that. But we broke up the tile. We did all that work. We grouted it. We meaning us 2.
See, I find that to be outside of my pay grade, as I call it. Yeah. And that's why we hired a contractor.
Well, this is before kids.
We put in the sweat equity, and then when it came to the kitchen, I looked at Joe and I said, "We can do this ourselves. We are not going to do this ourselves, though.
Good choice.
Because our marriage will not survive. And 2, what could be a month and a half or 2 months if we get a contractor will end up turning into a 6 to 9 month project if we do it ourselves. Because we're only going to be able to do it on the weekends. And I will probably murder you if we do not have a kitchen that I can cook food in.
Yeah, but then we turned around and surprised you were pregnant with kid number 2 during the pandemic. And I was working from home, doing stuff. It wasn't even an option to go to the office. I was using our spare bedroom as my office, and
it's, hey, you don't get that office anymore. I think we were about to start painting it, so you would have like your space. We had picked out a paint color, and we're about to buy it when it's like, hey, never mind on that. We need to finish off the basement, so you have a work from home space now.
Well, I think it was my idea. I'm like, well, I need somewhere to work, so we decided to put up walls in the old basement. We switched up the lighting. It was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot of work. It was probably a 3, 4, 5 month project between the two of us, plus my dad and my father-in-law. And then we had to hire a plumber because we added a half bath.
Oh.
Yes.
There was already a toilet, but
we had the good old 50s random toilet in the middle of the basement.
We call that the Pittsburgh toilet.
Yes.
And that's what we have had in our basement as well, because ours is from 42, and that's what we decided to turn into a full bath.
Yeah. So the reason why those toilets exist is because if the sewers back up, they're going to go through the lowest level thing.
I did not know this.
So if you have a toilet in your basement, it'll come up through the toilet in your basement and not through something in your main living space. So that is why in those houses, it's very prevalent to have a toilet in your basement.
That's one reason. The other reason is because usually Dad would come in all dirty and whatnot and need a place to change prior to coming upstairs.
Yeah, because the house that his mom grew up in, so his grandma's old house, had a toilet and a shower.
Yeah.
No sink in the basement. Because it was okay. Dad got home from work.
I don't think it had. My mom's?
Granny's house.
I don't think it had a shower.
I am
That's like the
75%
ultimate,
sure.
That was the ultimate, clean your dirty self before you come upstairs.
Yeah. Because I remember it being really weird that there was a toilet and a shower but no sink.
I don't think there was a shower.
I will text your mother.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to get to the bottom of this right now.
I mean, they randomly texted us. They went out to a restaurant, and my mom texted us, settle a bet for us.
What color was the fridge in Oma and Opa's kitchen? Your father says it's green, and we're like, and it's the old fridge from the Cheviot house, and we're like, dude, what world are you living in? It was a white side-by-side.
Oh.
I've been in the family for 13 or 14 years now, and it's always been a white side-by-side.
Well, so things are good with me working now, just to go back to that question.
Yeah.
So that's made life a lot nicer just on the fashion of all right, now we're both working. And then it's also got its own chaos just because, life is chaotic.
It is.
But at the same time, though, it's one of those deals where working here, the owners, the managers, they're great. And it flows really well.
Mm-hmm.
Even be able to take time off for different things. We went away on spring break, and so it was nice to be all right, I'm going away for a week. And I was able to give my stuff to the social media marketing coordinator, and she took care of the things that needed to be done, which luckily wasn't a whole lot while I was gone. And, or if I need to head out of town for a weekend for something, I can take my stuff with me and check it and, send emails back and stuff. And I'm very much a person who, within 48 hours of you sending me an email, I'm going to send you a response. If you don't get something outside of that, you
I'm
should be
bad at that.
I try to stay very on top of that because I can get drowned in just a sea of requests from people. So,
well, and if you have a good event space, which I would say this is a good event space, you're going to have a lot of requests. And whether or not all of those requests come to fruition of a scheduled event, it's still something that you have to treat like this could become a scheduled event. I need to make sure that they get the best service possible.
Definitely. Well, and two, we're at the point where, we're about year and a half, almost 2 years in from having continual monthly comedy shows downstairs.
Yeah. So is that part of your?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's all me.
You book all that?
I don't book all that. Luckily, there's this awesome guy that we work with, Chris Seimer, who is a comedian here locally.
Okay.
And he is actually I call him a talent scout because he is the one that picks out like who's going to be on the stage each month. And I completely trust him and what he's doing. He's brought in some great acts. But along with that, I've also started to get emails from people outside of that who are like, hey, we're doing a comedy tour. We're going to be coming through Cincinnati. We heard that you have a comedy club. Can we do it? Which honestly, I wholeheartedly love that. Like that they see the Riverfront Room as a comedy club because it is a nice setup. It's got that old comedy club feel to it.
Yeah, when it's a nice... I haven't been down to the basement yet, and I'm going to make you do that before
we're going to
leave.
do that, definitely.
I've seen pictures.
But, yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures, and what I can assume is, like, so, like, Fretboard, they have a good event space for, like, bands or comedians or whatever, but it's the whole brewery. So if for some reason you want to do something that's ticketed, like, your whole brewery is now part of that ticketed event.
Yeah.
Versus here you can be like, well, you can still come upstairs and do stuff upstairs, but to get downstairs, it's this extra $5 or $10 or whatever to see person X.
Yeah. So like the comedy show, for instance, is every third Saturday of the month, and it's $15 to go to. And we just actually, so we found out that like ordering food on a Saturday night when the restaurant is blowing up with customers doesn't really work very well for the kitchen.
Yeah.
We tried buffet. It kind of worked, but it was still kind of chaotic. And so what we've decided to do is go to a 10% off your like meal bill, either before or after the show, just to kind of give a little bit of extra towards, you know, being able to come and eat, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's, $15 to come down to the show. Actually, we started doing 2 shows in one night because it's gotten so busy because, 86 people can fit in a show. We can sell out the first show and have like 20, 30 people be like online texting me like literally throughout the day. Hey, do you have any extra tickets left? And we're like, we're sold out, was what I had to tell them. And now it's like, well, we have a second show and I don't get as many of those messages, which is super nice. And then people too come here and they're like, oh, there's a comedy show going on. And they end up buying tickets and coming down to the show. And so we're running at about half capacity for the second show, which has been great.
I mean, we went to the Funny Bone.
Yeah, this was a long while
on
ago.
the Newport on
Newport on the Levee.
Newport on the Levee.
Oh, it's gone. I know.
Yeah. There's a comedian that I want to see at the Liberty one, but we have to get childcare, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Is it Ben?
Yes.
Yes. That guy's awesome. From TikTok?
Yes.
Yes.
I do. I say you do use Spaghetti Man a bit more often than one should for 0 people understanding the context of that.
I love that guy when he sits around and he like acts like they're different states.
Yeah, it's the state guy.
It's the guy who says the states. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great. He had to have he had surgery recently or whatever.
He had was it like thyroid cancer?
Yeah, thyroid cancer.
So he had to get his thyroid removed in his neck. So he's got this gnarly scar now, and people are like, "What's with the scar?" And so he's had to explain it like 20 different times.
But he's so funny. Like he's so great. I like him, and I also like I think his name is Matt Fike or something like that. He's the guy who basically like roasts people in the audience, and he's so quick with his wit on it. Like he doesn't really have to write much of his own stuff.
But where I was going with that is, I feel like I haven't been down there, but I feel like it'll seat just about the same amount of people as like the Funny Bone.
It's close, yeah. I've heard that they can put a few more in the Funny Bone, but yeah, it's not too far off.
It's like it has the same feel.
Yeah.
To go back to your point.
Yeah, it's got sort of that very like old school like
comedy. Yeah. It's not like an arena.
No, it's definitely not like an arena at all. It's a one level. We have 10 tops that will put 8 people around, and then we've got 3 high tops that put 2 people at each one of those. So it's a nice intimate setting, and then of course, like I said, it's got the private bar down there and stuff, so people can order drinks and things. But one of the things I was saying was like we've had people reach out to us and be like, "Hey, you're doing this." So you guys are close to my age. You remember the Mighty Ducks?
Yes,
I remember them.
Okay, so you remember the goalie Goldberg? Okay, Sean Weiss. he and another gentleman named Will King, who he's famous for taking the song Stacy's Mom Has Got It Going On and changing it around to a song of why did Stacy's mom go out to these impressionable boys?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I think I sent that to you at one point, and I was like, because I remember back in ye olden times, every once in a while, I would take our computer tower and hook it up to our TV in the living room so I could play CDs through the TV in the living room.
Oh my gosh, you
And
are
I
going
played-
way back.
I've never done that.
Well, this is because I was decent with technology and I'm super old. So I was playing the Fountains of Wayne CD one day, and Stacy's mom comes on, and my mom, and like, I know what's up with stuff.
Right.
I'm maybe a little more street smart than most people my age, but my mom looks at me and she says, this is like if I had a crush on one of your friends, or like one of your friends was trying to get with me, right? And I was like, yeah, like, isn't that a compliment? Because that means that they think that you're hot. And that also means that I'm going to age well, because they say you age like your parents. And she's like, I don't think this message hit the way that I wanted it to.
You totally turned that one around on her, I think.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, so they're going to come and actually do a show, a two-show night in June on the 28th. So we'll have Goldberg here, actually, from the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, sweet.
And his story is very interesting because, one, when they were like, yeah, like Sean Weiss from the Mighty Ducks is coming. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I looked up pictures of him. And if you Google search him, the first thing you're going to see is like one of the scariest pictures ever of this guy, which is his mugshot from years ago, where his mom had passed away and he went on a complete bender. And
As some people will do.
Yeah. And so he was mourning her loss and everything else, and he got heavily involved in drugs and alcohol. But after a little bit of time of that, he got connected with a rehab. They worked with him, and he's been sober for like 3 years. And so now he's doing these tours around your place. I think we're the first brewery that he's coming to, actually.
I mean, that probably means that he's in a really good headspace, so that's good. Because I'd be like, wait, that story in a brewery, but if you can do it, do it.
Well, and we also, we carry Athletic Brewing in a beer as well. So, there is definitely, like, some other options for him as well. I'm actually going to reach out to him and see, like, what do you want here? Like, because I want to cater to him. Like, he's done a lot, and I want to support, his sobriety and that.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, especially for comedians, because they do, some of them getting wrapped up in some pretty crazy things. So,
yeah. Well,
touring life is hard.
Yeah.
You're not
For
really
bands,
steady.
musicians, and even comedy,
Yeah,
comics.
but I'm really excited for it. It's a little more expensive than the normal one. It's $30 for that show. But it's these two guys that are touring around and everything, and they've got like substantial content, and they've solidified themselves as one, viral sensation, two, nostalgic childhood is kind of the combination there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a good time. I feel like where you're going to get that ability to just like hear him. He's very candid about talking about what he went through. And I love that. Like, anybody who is in the right headspace can talk about, like, this is what I did. Like, don't follow me type of deal.
Well, and it's part of it, too, is like if we just shove it under the rug and never talk about it, nobody's going to learn. So it's like hey, this is what happened to me. This is how I got out of it. This is how to not get into it. Or if you are in some kind of level of the same place that I was, this is what worked for me on how to get out of it.
Yeah.
This might work for you. It might not, but it's at least a better thing than, hey, don't do that anymore because that's bad.
Right. Yeah. So we got that going on, and then also too, like, we're working on bringing in some different bands to do some music and stuff. That's a slow trickle, but it's coming in. I've had more and more people be like, hey, like, when are we going to get some bands in here? One of the bands that is going to come in here actually is String Theory.
I've heard of those guys.
Yeah, they've been around for a while. It's a trio, and they put out some great cover stuff. They sound really good, and so we're going to have them here in August. So that'll be a lot of fun. Actually, in July, skipping over a month, in July, we're actually doing a really cool collaboration beer with the Florence Bark Park and Patio. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not.
I have heard of them.
They just opened up last year, like literally a year ago. And
maybe I'm thinking of something else.
They have a bunch of taps and wine and things down there, and it's just a really cool dog park. And I met with their owner, and we're going to do a cold IPA collab with them.
Oh, nice.
And so we'll have it on tap here. We'll have it on tap down there. And we're just going to kick that off in July, I think on the 8th, with an event where we'll have a shelter here with a few of their dogs and talk about adoption. And I mean, so many shelters are just so full of dogs right now. There's so many that need adopted. And, even Hamilton County, they'd gone through a quarantine because of a situation with a stray that came in with a disease and caused a lot of problems. And so just trying to get these dogs into good homes and things along that line are super important to me because I'm a dog owner myself.
Yeah.
We have 2 dogs.
Yeah. Okay.
They're both.
Yeah.
They're not rescues, but it was hey, if nobody claims this dog, it's going to end up at a rescue. They were cheap to free, but we have spent a lot of money on them since.
But yeah, so we're gonna have an event here, and one of the things that we have, which is really cool, is that we actually have the dog scarves.
Oh, nice.
Have Deadlow logo on them and stuff like that. And we usually, when people come in, a lot of times they'll either buy them, I think they're $1 or whatever, or if we do an event, sometimes we just hand them out to people. So
yeah, and there's quite a few dogs here today because the weather's nice enough where we can hang out on the patio.
Yeah, and
there's enough space underneath cover in case if the weather turns because. Yeah. As mentioned earlier, it was downpouring before, and we think it's going to hold out the rest of the day, but we'll see. It's Cincinnati. You never know.
You never know, yeah.
You never know. Yep.
Get that one gust of wind from the Gulf, and next thing you know, we're in it.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I was wrong about the shower in the bathroom. And if you turn that into a button, you will not have a bed to sleep in for a week.
I will turn it into a button.
I look forward to having the whole bed to myself for a week.
We have something very special in front of us. Tell us about this beer.
Yeah, so we wanted to have a beer for Mother's Day. There's been a beer that was not really classified as a Father's Day beer, which is the Roush Smoke Lager.
Which we talked about a bit and how that would totally work for Father's Day.
Yeah. So we were trying to come up with something, and in the process of doing so, Coop was like, flowers are sort of the thing that Mom gets on Mother's Day.
And tea.
Yeah, tea a little bit, that kind of thing. And so it was like, all right, what can we come up with? And, some ladies, they're not a huge fan of all that hoppiness as well. So it's like, all right, we didn't want to do anything super hoppy. It's all right, well, we could come up with a Goza. Those are light. They're, refreshing. They've got a lot of flavor to them as well. And they're very palatable. And so he started kicking around looking for things and realized a rose petal would be something that could be steeped.
Yeah. And so I will say that something that often happens with rose and sometimes lavender is that people say, oh, it smells it tastes like potpourri or it tastes like soap. This does not do that.
No, he balanced it so well that you get the smell, you get that flavor. Yeah. What's really funny too is looking at the bright tank and the tube on the side of it, it looks pink, but then when you pour it, it's actually more of a peachy color in a way.
Yeah,
it's like
the pink the pink kind of canceled out the yellow a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got that sort of that peach taste to it, or peach flavor look to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say flavor. I would definitely say color.
Or color. Yeah, sorry, color. Yeah, peach color. It's got the salt, you can definitely get a little bit of the salt in there with it when you smell it, the sea salt with it and the coriander. But then on top of it too, you get this floral that comes in, and so it
kind of smooths out the little bit of sour from the Goza.
No, this is really light. This comes in at 3.3, so it's less than a seltzer. Yeah,
but it's still.
It's really good. I mean, Gozas in general are pretty light, in ABV and in taste.
And as a mom, there are times where I'm like, hey, Joe, you're drinking 2 beers, and I am drinking everything that is triple digit or pretty close to triple digit. But then there are other times where I'm like, I would like to make sure that I still have my headspace because I'm chasing 2 young children around.
Yeah.
So I would like to drink a beer, but I would like to make sure that I can still chase the 2 young children around, and this is a good beer for that.
This is really good.
This is one that you can come in and get a 16-ounce crowler or 32-ounce crowler, if you wanted to share it between 2 moms.
We gonna be doing that.
Definitely keep an eye on the Instagram page. That's the thing, our social media marketing person, Jessica, she is just on fire when it comes to posting.
I'm pretty sure we follow you. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we do too, but I'm just going to double check because
I think you guys gave me a shout out because I did a blog post about it.
Oh yeah, I think
Deadlow.
Yeah, I think she did back at the beginning of the year or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so this will come out right around Mother's Day. It'll be around for probably a good month or so. I don't see it lasting very long, honestly. I think it'll go quick.
I don't either. I mean, especially with the warmer weather coming up, where you're going to want something that's nice and light and crisp and.
Well, and that's in the 10-gallon or the 10-barrel tank too. So that's half of the other one. So so it's a small batch. That's the other side of it.
Hopefully next year they'll make more.
Oh, if it stays popular, if it's popular enough, I'm sure we will. So, but anyway, yeah. So I'm glad you guys got to try it though, because that was the thing. I was like, all right, this will be fun to do.
We learned new things today.
Yeah, so it's still in the tank. It's not available yet, but as of this, when this recording releases, it will be available.
Yeah.
Assuming a bunch of moms don't drink it on Mother's Day.
I mean, I'm looking for an excuse to get together with Hillary and Katie, so
there you go.
Maybe we do that. And they don't really drink like beer, and to me, this isn't a beer.
This is not a beer.
No. This doesn't taste like beer.
We thought it also too. It had sort of a mimosa feel to it in a way.
A little bit. I can totally get that.
Yeah,
you can definitely get the salt in the coriander and, like you said, the floral. Like, it's really good.
Yeah.
Like you said, rose. Rose goes and this is like, I don't think I've ever had one of those before.
You definitely haven't.
I don't think it's ever been made in the city.
Yeah, because usually
personally.
it's like the pomegranate, orange, mango, or whatever it is. Pog. I'm forgetting what it is. There's an acronym that like brewers use for like these are the usual fruits that people throw into a beer.
Yeah.
And I want to say
that sounds a little bit like the wit, like, because with the wit beer, it's the orange zest and pomegranate, and then it's got a za'atar spice in with it. Mm-hmm. And I actually let Joe smell the spice because it was out there on the desk or whatever, and he was like, "This will make a good wit beer." I'm like, yeah, it will.
Wit beers are notorious for adding stuff to it. Same thing with gozos.
Yeah.
If we get our act together and homebrew soon.
Yeah.
Which is a very big if. I can see us doing a Hefeweizen as our first beer.
Ooh, I love Hefeweizens.
Because that's the one that everybody drinks. Like, we have zero, unless if we like open up a bottle and like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be and it's a Hefeweizen. We have zero Hefeweizen homebrew in our fridge because his dad will drink it. His brother will drink it. It's not just us that have to be the ones that drink it, because a lot of our friends and family, now that we are more ingrained in the craft beer podcast community, we do have more friends that will drink it. But initially, when we were homebrewing, we didn't have a lot of friends that would drink beer.
I mean,
you let me know when you do that. I'm coming over.
I mean, they yield. It's a 5-gallon batch. Typically, you go to Listerman, you can get the kit. We don't make our own recipes.
Sure.
You get the kit.
It's all good. You can do it well with the kit.
It's 5 gallons. The whole point of homebrewing, in my opinion, is you can bring it to the family Christmas, the family Thanksgiving, family Easter. The family.
Well, have you seen the Simpsons clip where Homer like walks into his neighbor's garage and he's like out there because he's frustrated because his daughter's got him all frustrated, his wife's got him all frustrated, and he's all like, "Hey neighbor, what you doing?" And he's like, "I'm just brewing up some beer." And he's like, "You're doing what?" Like, act like he didn't really understand what was going on. The guy was like, "Here, try this," and it was like some Belgian beer or whatever. He hands it to him, and Homer's like, "This is the best beer ever," and just kept drinking it.
Yeah, to me, homebrewing is the whole point is to share it, right?
Yeah.
And we started probably 2017.
That would track with the winter warmer that I drank. Yes.
Yeah.
When I was actually dating bottles. Which
so
I don't
that's
anymore.
when we started homebrewing. Like, we bought the equipment or whatever, and then we bought the kit, and we would bring it to Thanksgiving, all the family stuff, even throughout the summer, and then COVID hit, and we brewed.
I need to get you guys invited to the thing that we do over near us, because I've got a buddy who homebrews. He's been doing it for years, and in the it's usually like it's around June or so. So I'll have to check on it exactly what's going on. But he brews about 8 different beers. He holds them all back, and then our friend Chef Michael Bellinger, who's a retired chef here in town, he's a good friend of ours. He pairs food with all 8 beers. And it's this amazing afternoon.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's this amazing afternoon.
I
of
would pay
beer
money
and
for
food.
that.
You don't have to pay.
I'm aware, but if it helps get me in, I will bribe whoever I need to bribe.
No, it's okay. I will talk. Actually, just to kind of be fun.
This sounds like something Brian would do.
It does.
Well, I got invited to go to
Shout
Pep
out,
and
Brian.
Dolores last night with Chef and his family, and so we were talking about all that stuff. So I definitely will be talking to him and be like, hey, when's this happening? And make sure that you guys get an invitation because I think you would enjoy it. Actually, it'd be cool if the Gnarly Gnome came too because I think he would have fun as well. But I've yet to actually meet him still.
Yeah, we've met him a few times.
It's hard to pin down.
He really is.
I know. He's a busy dude.
Yeah, and so on our 100th episode, he gets frustrated at us because he's like, you've never invited me to be on your podcast. And I was like, well, you're hard to get.
Like how I never asked him. I think that's what his frustration was. But
Yeah.
I asked him right immediately after that, how many podcasts do you have? He's like, I have 3.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know who he really is either. So, I mean, he could have came to like Winter Beer Fest down to Duke Energy, and I could have never known that he walked up while we were pouring beers, or like we're going to be at TQL.
Yeah, he
in
is
June.
very nondescript if he wants to be.
Yeah, I understand he flies under the radar because he criticizes the beers and talks about them and stuff, and not in a bad way, but I mean, still at the same time.
He started out as synonymous with Anonymous or whatever, but everyone knows him now.
Then he had like 5 different podcasts that he released where people said his name like 10 different times.
Yeah.
I mean, he does video.
He needs to stop in at one of the booths. Like we're going to be at TQL in June, like the 10th, and then we'll be at Great American Ballpark on the 17th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a lot of fun.
Do you think there's an AI version of him?
There could be.
We should talk about AI.
There could be an AI version of us because
Joe's like, I love the fact
because
you're
now
doing
we
this.
have enough words out in the ether that there could be an AI. Caroline.
Well, isn't it? It's not just words though. I mean, like you got the AI like people, like the
Yeah.
imagery as well.
I don't think we have enough pictures out there because my favorite are the really creepy commercials. Like there's a pizza commercial that was generated by AI,
Oh God.
and
I would think the Bud Light, but it was like weird.
like nobody is eating because there's a pizza commercial and there's like a beer commercial, and it's nobody's drinking at the right spot. Everybody's mouths look really weird. They don't really have the right number of fingers because
That's the thing.
hands are hard.
Yeah.
'Cause
the
if you look
AI
at
can't
cartoons-
figure out the fingers.
Yeah, if you look at cartoons, most cartoons only have 4 fingers because 5 fingers is really hard. And I used to be really into Dilbert. In Dilbert, they all have 5 fingers because the guy who made Dilbert worked really hard on hands for a while so you could make sure that he got them right.
It is a lot. I mean, I feel like the pinky is the one that really messes it up. Like you can do
Yeah.
a thumb and the first 3 fingers, and then that pinky is its own little entity.
Yeah. But so like my conspiracy is that because like even with Tarkin and Princess Leia in Star Wars, and a little bit with Luke now as well that they've done, where they've done like a de-aged or like an AI version of those characters.
Oh yeah.
Like there is something in my brain that tells me this is not a person, which my conspiracy theory with that is that our brains tell us like we have like these deep-seated, here are things that you need to be afraid of that are like ingrained in your instinct. And the reason why we're so good at telling real humans apart from not real humans is because at some point there was something that was a near human that attempted to attack us.
Did you watch Mandalorian?
Yes.
And see where like Luke Skywalker came on? Was that
Yeah.
your thought too at that time?
Yeah, I was like, it's really close, but there's still something about it that's a little bit off,
Yeah.
and it's a little off-putting.
Or
It
the
is off, yeah.
Yeah, or the when they showed the training scenes with Leia and Luke from
Yeah.
but one was that like Rise of Skywalker
Yeah,
or
Rise
something
of
like that.
Skywalker.
Yeah. Those that one especially. I was like, I want to believe this, but I know that it's not them really.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, without being involved in the process, I think they probably spent a little bit more time with Mandalorian and getting that right versus Rise of Skywalker was kind
Rise of Skywalker was first, I think.
It was
was.
first, and it was
So
probably
that was like the beta or whatever.
and it was probably a little bit of a Hail Mary of,
Mm-hmm.
oh shoot, we did not know she was going to pass away, so this was not our plan. But now we got to
Oh.
figure out how to put this in here.
Right.
But going back to your conspiracy theory,
Yeah,
I just watched Terminator for the first time.
How?
I've seen bits
how,
and pieces of it.
How have you not seen Terminator before?
I mean, it just wasn't a movie that I...
Were you not a
Maybe
sci-fi
we're
guy, really?
a smidge younger, so it was one of those like it's a little bit too scary for me to have you watch.
Is that
and
what it
we
is?
just
Yeah,
kinda
he
missed it.
doesn't
Okay.
even say anything. He's just this, big buff, character. He says,
"I'll be back." I mean,
he says that. Yeah, of course. I knew all
Sarah Connor.
Yeah. So Terminator for the Gen Z folks who populate our podcast. He comes back. So the beginning, the title sequence is the machines rise up after a nuclear war, and the humans and the machines are fighting. But the war is not fought in the future; it's fought in the present, which is 1984. So they send back this cyborg, the Terminator, aka the Governor, or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The Governor.
Yes.
It's not a tumor.
To kill Sarah Connor, who is the mother of John Connor.
Yes.
Get to the helicopter. Sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the other ones, so no spoilers. But the point being that if you kill the mother, you kill the son.
Offspring. Yeah.
The son. Yeah. So and then the humans send back this character. I think his name is Reese. His last name is Reese.
Yes.
They say his first name, but I forget it. And then his job is to protect Sarah Connor.
And they did like 3 movies, maybe 4. I don't remember. Plus a TV series on Fox.
Yeah. It blew up. I think there's 6. I bought the DVD or the Blu-ray or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's 6 movies.
My favorite is 2. I really like 2 a lot.
Yeah.
You get the guy who like.
I haven't seen it yet.
2 is great because like the guy, the Terminator they send back for that one is actually a guy who he can just like liquefy himself.
I've seen the like modeling for that.
Yeah, it's so cool because like there's so much, and also too he can change forms as well. Kind of like the female version that they bring in one of the later ones, but I forget who it is that plays the Terminator in the second one. He's kind of a famous like actor or whatever, but
it's not Arnold.
It's not Arnold. No,
it's Arnold.
No, it's not Arnold. You watched the end of the first one. You know what happens to Arnold.
I thought he was. Yeah, I do know what happens to him.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's freaky as hell. He doesn't say anything.
So you can't have him in the second one so much. So you have to watch the second one.
Well, that's your time.
I
mean, they're going back in time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's your challenge is to watch the second one now.
I'm gonna watch all 6 eventually.
And I'll just fall asleep in bed.
And then you have to watch Total Recall.
But in the first movie at least, they use dogs. They use German Shepherds to distinguish cyborgs from people.
Yes. And that's even from like, the funny part about that is that even happens prior to whatever takes place. Like they actually, dogs, because they're barking at him in present day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, they use that in the future to distinguish the Terminators,
Right. But it's like
and then he comes back in time and uses that. And that's like their alarm. The cyborg is coming to kill us. And the crazy part about that, this movie was made in the 80s. And stuff in this movie is freaking me out because it's happening now where where people are using AI to scam people. The thing that's kind of freaking me out is, in this movie, the Terminator is trying to kill Sarah and he figures out. He goes after the roommates. He goes to their apartment or whatever. He kills the roommates and her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And he listens to their voicemail /
Oh, so he can pick up their voices. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and then he figures out she has a mom who lives in the mountains. And then he goes to kill her mom. And then Sarah calls her mom. And then he
impersonates
her using her voice to trick her into telling her where she's located.
Yeah, and he uses that voice. He uses Sarah's voice to actually trick her younger son at that time too, I believe. Mm-hmm. Like in one of the other that's in the second movie.
Because the second one is about he comes.
Yeah.
I read it a little bit.
Yeah,
he tries to kill John.
Sorry, it's been so long. I feel like the spoiler. Like
so.
Yeah, no.
But that's happening because there was a story and I linked it. There was this Arizona. I think it happened to an Arizona family. the daughter, I think it was like high school age, she was out with her friends, skiing or whatever for a ski weekend. And the mom got a call from, quote, her daughter. And then it was AI generated. Found a connection between the daughter and the mother and then the phone numbers, obviously. And they tried to scam her out of $1 million. Like it was like a hostage situation.
Oh, jeez.
But the daughter was never in danger.
You're going to like freak out all of your listeners.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but that happened in 1984 when they made this movie, and it's coming true.
Well, I mean, think about Blade Runner and like all this stuff that was take place. I mean, like some people just have a really good ability to be like, all right, like this is highly possible later on down the line.
Yeah.
And to happen. I mean, like you look at some of the stuff that even they put into like Back to the Future, like especially the second one. The stuff that was in there.
Jaws 5 or something?
There was something like that, yeah. But I mean,
I don't think they made that many.
We didn't get that many, but you did get like.
It's like the Boston Red Sox win the World Series.
No, it was the Cubs actually.
Oh, it was the Cubs,
they beat the Florida Gators or something like that, even though it was like.
But
the
it was
Marlins
like the same year the Cubs actually won the World Series.
It was something along those lines, yeah.
You swing enough times and eventually you're gonna hit something.
But it's one of those deals where it's like you can see like, all right, like this. The trajectory kind of shows something is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, like how much do you want it to affect you, I guess?
Yeah. So my question as a dad, as we see all this now, and we have experience with technology. I mean, I'm holding a computer in the palm of my hand.
Right.
That has more technology in it than they did when they did the Apollo space missions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we know how quickly technology is advancing, and we see this AI popping up now. And your kids are heading into teenage years,
The prime dad, can I have a phone? Dad, can I have a phone?
Yeah. So how do you manage, kids, teenagers, with all this new technology? Like, how do you distinguish? How do you navigate that world? This freaks me out.
I've been
someone with little kids.
I've been lucky enough to actually, with being a part of social media and going to some different conferences, I've been able to actually connect with some different like technology groups that do a really good job of putting out products that help parents to basically monitor their kids' cell phones and their internet access without it having to be too intrusive. So instead of walking up to your kid and being like, give me your phone, like let me look through this whole thing, and make that really awkward for somebody and almost make you feel like, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
And I know as parents, like, we want to trust our kids. So it's like, how do you balance that? And so there's a company that I really love to talk about called Bark Technologies. They're based out of California, and they've done a lot of work. I mean, they've done so much work that they got to the point where a couple years ago, they actually put out a documentary that you can get on YouTube that talks and shows how fast a underage teenager can be contacted by an adult.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
Well,
it's
like,
so scary.
So part of it is like, I did not do this, but I know people who did, like growing up with AIM.
Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger, because America Online was a thing. That's what AOL stands
there
for,
was
kids.
The chat roulette too, right?
Yeah, and chat roulette was a thing as well, but it was like, okay, you can go into whatever chat room you want and just be like ASL. Okay, I'm a 12-year-old, but really I'm a 19-year-old girl in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
Because I can pretend to be whoever I want to be.
Well, in that documentary, they build this profile. The woman that they have do it, she's a very young-looking lady who actually has like a 12-year-old daughter, and they come to the point where one of the people that they contact, he decides that he wants to meet them in person, and so they dress her up to look like a 12-year-old and like meet him at like a hotel lobby or whatever.
Yeah,
and it is mind-blowing.
So it's Chris Henson level stuff.
It is very much on that line, and I mean they got the
ketchup part.
Yeah, it's ketchup. But they got the FBI involved in it and everything, and was able to take care of it. But it's one of those things where it's like this program itself, when you sign up for it, it basically allows you to take any of the kids' apps and other accounts and put them in a place where it'll get monitored. Now, the really neat thing about Bark is that they monitor like text messages and stuff. So they've actually been able to, there's lots of school shootings that get placed. They've actually been able to stop tons of school shootings.
Oh man.
Just because they've seen the conversations that have taken place between their friends and stuff. They're like, all right, like we need to act on this.
Yeah.
So, for the amount of people who are like, oh, there's tons of school shootings that are always happening. It's like there are tons of school shootings that didn't happen, and the majority of them have not happened because of companies like Bark and others who are monitoring these things. And the parents have taken the responsibility of being like, I can't do this all on my own. Like I've got so much going on.
Yeah.
I can't keep my life and my kids' lives. Like it's a lot. So to be able to say like, all right, I can sign up all these different things and have it be monitored, and you get an email about it.
Yeah.
Hey, little Johnny, he was talking to somebody about this, and then you can just be like, hey man, I got this email and I just want to talk to you about this conversation you were having with your buddy Billy. Like, what's going on there? How do you feel about this? Is there something you want to talk about? Yeah,
because there's a very big difference with how technology is today versus when we were kids. Because when we were kids, it was I can't use the phone right now because I'm on the internet, if you even had the internet.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to look anything up, well, here is our collection of encyclopedias, or we can go to the library.
Right.
Because we didn't have everything at our fingertips. And like, oh, hey, yeah, I can three-way call a friend if
I never did that.
somebody else's house has the ability to do that, because my parents don't pay for that.
Right.
It's like if I call Ashley, then Ashley can call Kim, and then the three of us can talk together. Otherwise, it's I can talk to Ashley or I can talk to Kim, but the three of us can't talk
Well,
together.
there's no such thing as collect calls anymore, too. I mean, you can call anybody anywhere in the world, which is totally different than what it was back when we were kids, where it was like you called the 1-800, it was like, hi, this is Bob, I had a baby, it's a boy. Kind of deal. Or, hey, Mom, I'm at the basketball practice, come pick me up.
Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore because you've got you or one of your friends has something that can get you there.
Yeah.
Because I remember going, and I'm still kind of surprised that our parents let us do this, but we were older-ish at the time. Being a young teen with my friend, we would take our bikes and we would go down to the convenience store down the street. And we would go get some pops or some candy at the convenience store and then bike back home. Well, across the street from the convenience store was a hotel that was very sketch and mildly known for selling rooms by the hour.
Oh yeah.
And it was okay, well, you have your dad's cell phone, because we only have one cell phone in the house. So if you have dad's cell phone on you, then you can go do this. And you have to call us when you get there and call us when you're going to head home. But otherwise, if you don't have dad's cell phone, you can't go do this.
Yeah. So to me though, I feel that in this day and age, being a parent of preteen type kids or whatever, really just being open, having conversations with them, and letting
that's key.
It is so key. And also too, just being like, hey, listen, you come talk to me about things. I'm not gonna fly off the handle. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it's something I did something kind of stupid. It's all right, what'd you do? I've done stupid things too. So I'm not going to immediately jump on you. Let's figure this out. What did you do? Was it really stupid, or was it just misconstrued or whatever it was? And so definitely had those conversations with my 10-year-old. Not so much with my 7-year-old. She's still, I feel like the 7, until you get to be about 9,
yeah,
you don't really need to get too deep in the weeds about a conversation. Whereas when you turn 10, you're on the cusp of being a preteen at that point, and there is a lot more going on. And I've had where, he's like, oh, so-and-so has an Apple phone or Apple iWatch or Apple Watch, or they have an iPhone or something. Why can't I have that? And you just talk through to them about it. For me, you don't need it right now. It's not necessary, I know when to come pick you up. If you were doing if you were involved in something where you needed some sort of two-way communication, we can come up with something. For me personally, I would go with a gizmo.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend anybody, before they go to Apple Watches and iPhones, look at a gizmo, because that is so much more secure than the other. You're not giving them the world.
Yeah.
In an iPhone, we're here you go. Here's the entire world on a 4x2 screen type of deal. It's that's a lot.
Yeah, and his cousin, her kids, if they even have a phone, this can text and this can call, and that's it. So when they want to communicate with their friends, it's I can send text messages, but I can't do Snapchat, I can't do Instagram, I can't do any of that other stuff. She's you don't need to.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I understand that your friends' parents allow them to do that, but this is why I am not letting you do that. And part of it is to keep you safe, and part of it is to make sure that you don't do anything super stupid.
There are so many studies that show that social media is like the cause. Social media adjacent is the cause of like depression. Kid depression. Like,
Well, because it's all
like
of
the
my
mental
friends
health
were at this
of our
party,
youth.
but I wasn't invited.
Well, have you seen like there's commercials out now actually that show like where I think this kid's playing like hockey or something like that, and he like they show him like he's on like social media with something, and he's sitting there beside his mom, I believe it is, and they're like, hey, so and so sent me this, and she's like, what do you want to do in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't think this is good. Like, she's giving him the opportunity to make the decision, but he feels comfortable enough to have the conversation with his parent, which I love that, because honestly, like, you don't need to be super overbearing about it, but you also want them to have that freedom to have that.
You just have to have the conversation. And something that's prevalent now is cyberbullying. I know my sister, she's 10 years younger. She
had a Snapchat in high school.
Which
was crazy, because that's like, oh, we barely were able to text in high school.
And her friends would Snapchat, they would be at a party and she would get Snapchats of, oh, there's my friends. Why wasn't I invited?
Yeah.
And sometimes people do that maliciously, like especially in high school. Like, oh, I'm at this party, you're not invited, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear with AI, bringing it back around to AI, and the deep fakes, is that, I'm going to do something malicious with a deep fake. And it's not happening with like that age group now. It's happening, with big production movies now. But it's definitely possible.
Yeah,
and
like there's
this technology is going forward. And it is being more accessible, kind of like, the cell phone.
Yeah, like maybe it's I had my head screwed on my shoulders right as a teenager, where I knew I only want to share certain things on social media because once it's on the internet, it can't go anywhere. But like I would see posts in the very early days of Facebook of, oh, hey, here are all these kids that I go to high school with at a toga party at somebody's house while their parents are out of town. And various photos didn't show anything super bad, but like there was some definitely very questionable things in those photos of like, hey, I can download this photo, I can take a screenshot of it, and now, like, I have a copy of this, and like, oh, hey, you want to be a teacher?
Yep.
I find out you're a teacher at a school. Hey, let me send these photos to your principal, and now all of a sudden you don't have a job. Yep. But now with AI, I can
just
be like, hey, here are like 10 photos of this person and 10 photos of a questionable situation, combine the two together, and now, hey, look, you don't have a job.
I can just poof, it's there.
Well, and two, like, so we like watching the show Ted Lasso, me and my wife do, and their most recent episode they had where they were talking about how, like, something questionable that you decided to send off to a boyfriend or, a significant other, whatever, and all of a sudden, like, they have it someplace and it gets hacked.
Mm-hmm.
And that person's like, I thought I had a good enough, like, password or whatever. And you basically, it's like, all right, like, you got to be very careful about where you're going to put stuff at and how you're going to, like, contain it and that kind of thing. And I found that kind of interesting too, because it's like, all right, like, you got to have that conversation as well. It's like, hey, like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to share this, you want to do this with your significant other, like, just realize this is the potential.
It can be hacked.
It can be hacked, or they cannot be your significant other anymore and just decide that, hey, I'm going to go post this somewhere because I can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you broke up with me and I don't like that.
Yep. And that's, it's really sad that it's at that point, but that's exactly what can happen. So, but I do find that, as my kids get older, it definitely comes more and more with thought. I hear it a lot in the dads group, running the Cincinnati dads group. I get a lot of guys who are like, hey, like, what age did you allow your kid to have a cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
What age did you?
There's a lot of societal pressure.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
younger and younger.
5 of my friends have a phone at the age of 7. Like, I should have one too. And it's like, honey, let's talk about why we shouldn't maybe have that yet.
Yeah, and I get that when I'm at like a parenting event with the school and like their kids, or they'll be like, oh yeah, like my so and so has this phone or whatever. I'm not one to like hold back. I'm like, why? Why did you give them that? Like, they're how old? Like, I'm sorry. I mean, you can call me old school if you want, but you realize what you just opened a can of worms up to for your kid? Like, in all honesty, like, you say that you want to, protect them, but giving them that kind of device, that doesn't protect them at all.
Yeah.
It might be a convenience for being able to call you, but there are other ways to do that.
Yeah. And like, our kids don't have tablets. I have zero plans to get our kids tablets in the future, at least in the near future.
They don't
but
need them.
they don't need them. And like, we'll watch YouTube videos
with them
on the TV in the living room.
Because
we know what's
Elsa-gate is
going
a
on.
thing. Do you know what Elsa-gate is?
No, what's that?
So people will create childlike looking cartoons where like the video will start off nice and cartoony, but then it turns into like Happy Tree Friends.
Oh God.
Or,
I remember Happy Tree Friends.
Yeah. So
I don't know what that is, but this happened in like 2014.
I love that you know what Happy Tree Friends does and he doesn't.
So Happy Tree Friends were like you remember like.
Just remember cuddly bunnies, and then all of a sudden they blow each other up.
Yeah. So like
they stab each other.
The stickers that you could get at Spencer's were like, "I'm cute but deadly," and it's this cute little bunny that's saying the thing. It'd be like cute.
Like the South Park critters.
Yeah. So it'd be cute little woodland creatures, and then it's like, "Hey, we're all on this roller coaster," and then the roller coaster crashes and burns.
Yeah.
And
this is exactly
dies.
like this because people. This is another rabbit hole.
I got to give you a high five.
But people this is the problem with social media. People just want the clicks. They want the likes.
Mm-hmm.
It's that dopamine hit.
Because social media is designed around dopamine, which is addictive. And then that gives them money. That gives Facebook money. Like engagement gives them money because they can then sell the data to advertising. And then they can get money that way.
Yeah.
So it's like they've got video, like you can have your kid only have access to YouTube Kids, but there's still sketchy stuff on YouTube Kids.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, my wife actually.
This is why they created YouTube Kids, because of Elsa-gate. Because at the time, Elsa and Spider-Man were the two top searched things on YouTube. So people created, they manipulated the algorithm.
And they're still doing it on YouTube Kids as well.
Yes.
Because my wife, she came up to me the other day and was like, we can't just let them watch. Like, they have certain things that they like to watch on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And like, we can't just like let them watch it unless we're going to be sitting there, which I'm like, to me, I'm like, ugh, like, I don't want to sit there and watch a freaking Minecraft like thing.
But you don't like have to watch it because
I don't. No, I usually will bring my computer in from work.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there on the couch with them, and it's like I can hear, when it switches over, or if they say something really stupid, which they've typically, most of the stuff they've picked has been pretty good, but it's the commercials or, the next video kind of thing you have to watch out for. But it's still like, she was like, we can't sit here and just like basically let YouTube babysit our kids. And I'm like, nope, you're not wrong. Like, I get it. I need to be more on top of that. So yeah, I typically, when it comes to work, I will just bring my laptop in. I'm like, all right, I'll work on this, or I'll work on, editing a podcast. Like, I'll just put one earbud in. It's like, all right, I'm going to edit the home dad chat podcast, or, while I'm doing everything else. So I get it.
Yeah. You got to keep an eye on your kids. And
well, it freaks me out. I mean, this deepfake stuff, like, it's becoming, going back to the story that I brought up of the AI trying to get $1 million from the mom, acting like the daughter or whatever. According to the article, you just need 3 seconds of the voice to generate and you can get a whole conversation.
I will say though, just from the standpoint of like the industry that my wife works in and the company that she works for, it's harder than what you think to like actually pass over for a specific person. Like,
it's not there yet.
I mean, part of it
because they will, like, because that's the thing. Like, at the company that she works for and that I worked for, like, basically the voice recognition and everything else, they can pick out the little peaks and valleys in the voice enough to like put up a red flag of like, all right, we need to do a larger investigation into like, is this the actual person type of deal.
But half of it too is like, it's the panic of the, hey, I just got a phone call from my daughter who is not in town with me saying that she is in trouble. I'm not totally going to be thinking clearly. Because I remember, this was years ago, because it was when Granny still lived on her own. There was some news story that came out of like, hey, keep an eye on your elderly relatives because people are calling random numbers and saying, hey, I'm your grandson. I'm in Mexico. Send me money.
That I can see being very scary.
And that happened to her. And she fortunately was just like, well, I'm going to hang up and then figure out like who I can contact to see whether or not this is actually a thing. But she's like, yeah, they kind of almost got me on that one.
Right.
It's like, yeah, maybe we do need to take away your phone because you don't necessarily need to have a phone.
Or just
like make
pull
sure
back
that you don't
from
have
the
your,
AI because it's
well, that wasn't
scary.
even AI. That was just like you're
Somebody
just
trying
cold
to
calling
impersonate,
numbers and
yeah.
trying to figure out what happens.
Yeah.
Because I'll get cold call text messages all the time of like, hey, your Netflix subscription is about to be canceled because we need more information from you. Click on this link. And I'm like,
No.
I don't have a Netflix subscription. I don't have student loan debt anymore. Like,
Or I'm smart enough to know that that doesn't work that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like part of it too is like make sure that you have, like this is back to the like children involved with this. Like make sure you have a good relationship and a good conversation with your kids and
Just let them know what it can do.
So I actually studied as a youth minister.
mhm.
And that's basically that's what my degree's in. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I remember in like when I was in like the psychology class what we
Mhm.
took was the fact that I knew that, or they told us that basically you're gonna have these conversations with teenagers. They're gonna
Mhm.
tell you some crazy things,
Yeah.
and the idea is that when they tell you these things, you have no reaction.
Yeah. What's the like, hey, I know you're going to do stupid things, but I would rather you give me the call at 2:00 in the morning of, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, I did this stupid thing. Can you come pick me up? And just being like, okay, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to be silent the whole way home. We don't even need to talk about this.
Nope.
Because you know everything that I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And like I had a coworker who is much older than us, because she has a kid that's almost my age, where she was talking about how way back when she told her parents she was spending the night at her friend's house, and she was like 18. So it was like, okay, you're an adult now. You do what you want. But really, she had gone to a biker bar, and she was hanging out at this biker bar, drinking, doing all this stuff. And she looks over, and all of a sudden her dad is at the bar drinking a beer. He looks at her, he prosts her from across the bar, chugs his beer, turns around and walks out.
Oh.
Doesn't say anything to her. So then she's like, oh no, I was just doing all of these things. Walks up to the bartender. Hey, how long was that guy here? Oh, he was here for about half an hour. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Like that is way more traumatizing or like more of a lesson than him going into the bar, seeing what she's getting into, saying, not on my watch. You're not going to do this. We're getting in the car. We're going home right now.
Making a scene.
Yeah, making a scene out of it. It's much more of the, oh no, what did I just do?
I would much rather be that guy, that dad that sits at the end of the bar and just watches as like from afar.
Mhm.
And if they see, great. If they don't, like, all right, like.
I know that you're safe
I know
because
that you're
I'm kind
safe.
of here. I can step in if I need to.
Yeah.
But if you do notice me, you're going to be like, oh no, I just sobered up real quick because something happened that I was
Right.
not expecting.
But I'm not gonna try to come in and embarrass you or anything. Like you're an adult,
Yeah.
like or you know you're close to an adult type of deal. It's like I'm gonna give you that respect on that side. Like we can talk about it later.
Yeah. Like if you come to me and you talk to me about this, great. If not, I know you're having this conversation in your head right now.
Right. And if not, later on down in line, it'll just make for a really fun story at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're going to try to embarrass me on something. Let me tell everybody about that one time now that it's been 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember when you did that keg stand at that bar?
Yeah. You didn't know I was there. That was pretty funny.
I grew up where, I mean, I knew that if I needed to contact my parents, I could. But I also had an uncle who was like, if you ever get into a situation, you just call me or whatever. And I never needed to actually ever do that.
Yeah.
But there was one time that I actually was in a situation where friends of mine were like, hey, we're going to go to this party. I didn't know anybody other than my friend who was going to this party. And I was like, all right, like, cool, we'll go to this party. And it was in college. And I had my unspoken rule, and I told them what it was just so that they knew. I said, hey, listen, if there's drugs at this party,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, this is the middle of December. It's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go to the party. I get a beer. We're hanging out. All of a sudden, my friend disappears. I'm like, where the heck did they go? And I start asking around. Someone's like, oh, they went upstairs. I'm like, all right. So I walk upstairs with my beer. I open up the door, and there are just all these people sitting inside, and they're like doing all kinds of drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, nope, I'm out. And like they see me, and I like start walking down the stairs, and they come running after me, and they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I
told you my rules.
Yeah, I told you what my number one rule was. It was no drugs. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around here for that. And I walked myself 2 miles home to
Mhm.
my dorm. And I got home, and my roommate was like, what have you been doing? I'm like, I'm walking home in the snow, why? And I explained the situation. They're like, I'm so glad you decided to come home. I'm like, yeah. And I called my parents the next day, and I'm like, this is the situation I got myself into. And they were just like, I'm glad that you can make good choices.
Yeah, it's one of those things like making sure that you had the support system. It was just your dumbass that decided not to use it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but it's like, yeah, making sure that it's not the why did you do this? Like that was a stupid thing to do. It's more of the, hey, we're going to sit in silence as we drive home.
Yeah.
So you are having this whole internal monologue with yourself. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make any facial expressions, but I know that you're safe. You know that you're safe. And now everybody's home. Hopefully you're not going to make this decision again, but if you do, maybe then we're going to sit down and have a true conversation about, hey, you can't expect mom to bail you out at 2 a.m.
No.
Every other weekend.
Well, and they live 3 hours away, too, so it wasn't like I was going to expect them to come
you were going to
down
walk
here,
home
too.
a lot faster and they'd be there anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like you need to build that foundation with your kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's important. I mean, that if there's one thing that I took out of my parents, like, I get a lot of people who are like, they tell you, like, the horror stories of what it was like to grow up. I'm like, sorry, I can't, like, really match with that. Like, my parents actually were quite well at taking care of being there and being someone you can talk to. But I think the one thing that you can take from that is just showing your kids, like, hey, like, you can come talk to me. I'm not going to, like, lose my mind or go off the handle. But I do expect a level of trust in the fashion of, like, come talk to me about this.
Yeah. And, like, our kids are 3.5 and 2 right now.
Oh,
there have been
such a long way to go.
We do. And there have been, like, a handful of times where, like, I have mildly flown off the handle, and I have recognized that I have flown off the handle. But it's like, hey, yes, mom yelled at you, and yes, you got scared, but I need you to understand you were about to do something that was going to put you or your brother in major jeopardy.
Yeah.
And I needed you to have that second of shock and come over here so we can talk about why we don't do the thing that we were about to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know that lesson isn't going to sink in right now, but maybe the 10th time that we have it, it will finally sink in of, oh, hey, yeah, maybe I shouldn't try to jump on my brother off of the couch.
I've also come into the place, too, when I was in your guys' stage of parenting, where even if you flew off the handle at your kid, if it was something you weren't doing, like, over and over and over again, and it was just these sporadic moments where, like, you're talking about, like, certain situations, I basically had learned that they're not going to remember that stuff.
Yeah.
They're not going to remember you flying off the handle. What they're going to remember is the fact that there was some sort of reaction that took place to a negative, like, action that they did, and that's the thing to not do.
Yeah.
And so not to, like, basically hold too much against yourself as a parent in the fashion of, like, how you, like, you know, yelled at them, but more along the fashion of, like, you'll see it in the next time that they do it. Like, they'll have a moment where they just sort of stutter, like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that again. And it has nothing to do with what you did. It has something to do with the fact that they understand that previously they had made a wrong choice.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a second chance at making a right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, like, totally went all over the place. That never happens on this podcast.
Never. But I love that. Man, where's that guitar guy at?
Yeah, there he is. Brock, I promised you at the end that you could talk about the dad's group and some of the stuff that you have going on, and then maybe some stuff at Deadlow that's going on.
We did talk about a few things.
We talked about,
Deadlow.
we pretty much got into the Deadlow stuff. So I think that most people know what's going on there. But as far as the dad stuff, so I have been for the longest time just doing virtual hangouts, mainly with the stay-at-home dads in the National At-Home Dad Network, and just staying in contact with the local dads through the Facebook group. But a lot of those guys are like, when do we get to hang out together? And I'm like, I feel you. Okay. Like, and with this new life change, it's like, what does that look like? So my wife started meeting once every other week with a friend of hers. And I was like, all right, if you're going to do that on that week, the following week, I'll go hang out with the dads. And she was like, sounds like a great idea. So on every other Thursday, we're going to have a dad's night out. So if you're following on Facebook, I'm going to start getting it posted out on Facebook and Instagram more. Or if you join the group or meetup, you'll see when those get posted. And we're going to try to meet at a combination of places. I've had some folks like, I like to meet at all the breweries, which I'm like, sweet. Let's go do some of the breweries. And I have other folks who are like, I'm not so much into that. Like, what else can we do? And so I'm trying to figure out other places that we can go hang out that are more balanced in the fashion of like, all right, like you don't have to come and drink and hang out type of thing. So like maybe we go to like foul bowling or something along those lines. Like, maybe we go to pins or whatever it comes down to. So we're working on all those. So that's going to happen every other Thursday. And we're going to make that a more regular thing. Something that we have coming up in June, actually, if people want to come sort of support the dads group, in Madison Place, they do different things with Columbia Township. And on June 3rd, I believe it is, it's Mardi Gras-ville or whatever they're going to be doing there. Big event from like 4 to 9. And we're asked to come and sell water and soda and juice boxes. And all the proceeds that we sell actually go to the dads group.
Nice.
So that we can sort of like, hey, we want to go do an FC Cincinnati game with the dads, or maybe the dads and the kids, and we're going to cut the price down, and we're going to use some of the money from that to actually cut the price down.
Yeah.
Or we'll do some other kind of event or whatever it is, and it'll actually, like, the money from that will help do that. So that's something new that the group has started to do, is like we're starting to sort of like build some money up to where, dads can come out to an event like that and not feel like, oh my gosh, I got to spend all this extra money. So those are some of the big things that are taking place. Father's Eve is typically something that takes place, but with my job, and then also to another David McMillan, who's been a part of our group for a very long time from the inception. He's busy as well. Unfortunately, like his wife is an ER doctor in town, so when they take time to get out, they get out because I mean, she's an ER doctor. She's seen all of this chaos with COVID and everything else. So. When they take a break and get the heck out of Dodge, and I don't blame them. Which is
very well deserved.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. So they're going to be out camping, so they're not going to be around either. So more than likely, unless something else changes, we probably won't have Father's Eve this year, but we will have the every other week dad group, dad's night out, which to me like is very similar to going to Father's Eve.
Yeah. So I'm about to not have Joe every other Thursday is what I'm hearing right now. If it's close enough to the house.
Well, this probably won't come out by then, but on the 11th, we're actually...
It's in our calendar.
We're going to be on West Side,
yeah.
So yeah.
But you put it for 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., so...
That's not going to work, okay? You can come hang out with me at the brewery, but nobody else is going to be here. And actually, if you come here at 7, I won't even be here yet, so...
Yeah, so 7 p.m.
Yeah, 7 p.m.
I'll promptly correct that.
I'm sure you will.
But I think 2 weeks ago you meant a Cartridge, I think.
Yeah, we were at Cartridge, and so we did Cartridge last time. We're going to go to West Side, and then actually on the, let's see, what is it? I don't even know. Like whatever that other week is in May, at the end of the month, we'll be actually here at Deadlow.
Nice.
Okay.
So figure, we need to come here too, Yeah.
You're only a little biased at this point, but you're not super biased.
Not super biased, but if you come, like, I'm going to give everybody a tour of the brew house, and we're going to hang out, like, get a little extra VIP treatment, so it's worth it.
Definitely. Get some rose goza. It
Yeah.
should be rose goza. That kind of changes the context.
Yeah, it does kind of. A little bit, yeah. So, well, it's supposed to have a different name altogether when it all comes down to it. Like, that's just sort of like the beer name. We were talking about calling it, like, Yo Mama or something along those lines. Actually, no, I take it back. The name that they came up with the other day was Mums and Roses.
That's a good one.
I like that one.
That's what I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be named on the Untapped is Mums and Roses. So get that musical feel in there.
Yeah,
which is very synonymous with this place
and very very punny, which moms are always behind.
Yeah,
because dad jokes are a thing, but mom jokes are also a thing. So it's not as recognized.
So we're at over 2 hours.
Oh my goodness! There's a few breaks in there.
Yeah, there's a few breaks.
Yeah.
But, I think we have quite a few. We have quite the episode. So, Brock, thank you for inviting us to
I'm
Deadlow.
glad we could reschedule and make this happen.
I agree.
Because sickness hit our house hard in December. We just need to learn to not.
You had it in December. We had it in January. So.
Yeah,
no, it was February. We reached out in February.
That was your mom that got sick then.
Right. We were exposed to COVID. We've been trying to do this since February, and we got exposed to COVID.
I will say the weather's a lot better for it.
It is. It really, because I know we were talking about, we got to use the downstairs space because the brew house is going to be cold.
Yeah. So this is much better to get to actually hang out in the brew house.
Yeah.
And then there's a different time where we tried to get together and it just didn't work for whatever reason.
But we made it happen, and it's all good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then life almost made this not happen, but I can talk to you about that off mic.
Podcasting finds a way.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Shout out to my brother who is watching the kids, even though he is napping.
But I want to thank you guys for reaching out to me. Honestly, like, I mean, I posted that I got the new job.
Mhm.
I didn't expect to like hear from you guys again. You're like, hey, like, you want to come on the show and talk about like the transition? I'm like, that would be cool. Like, I didn't expect that. So,
Well, because like, and like the Gnarly Noma's talked about this a few times too. It's like we can have multiple podcasts that revolve around beer in Cincinnati because Cincinnati is such a diverse beer scene. So he talks about just breweries and like what breweries do, where we're more like so how does this work with your family kind of side of things.
That's
and
important though.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have that conversation.
Because there's a bunch of stuff too about how like millennials aren't having children, but then there are a bunch of millennials that do have children, and it's like, how do you still go out and do things with your family? You can. It's just you got to change up how you're going to approach things.
Strap them on and go.
Yeah. Or like just be ready to chug a beer at any moment because someone's going to have a meltdown that you can't stop.
Basically.
But you find the places that are good to bring kids to, because like West Side's usually good because there's enough space where you can be apart from somebody's party. Places that have an outdoor space like Deadlow, okay, you're having a meltdown, we can just walk around the patio 10 times because we're out in nature, and that'll help calm you back down. And then we can go back inside if we're eating food or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Just having your plans and your backups.
Yeah, so this podcast is definitely, family forward.
Yes.
Trying to make having a family, kind of trendy again, because it doesn't feel like,
It's
people our age are doing that. So
it's hard because everybody works.
Well, I was
I
trying to pull.
understand it's hard, but
I was trying to
it's
pull this
important.
up real quick too, because like there's this actually really cool group. I don't know if you guys have heard it or not. I can't find it exactly. I'll have to get it for you to put
is
in
it
the show
a
notes.
Family and Brews?
Yes,
Yes,
Family
we're
and
part
Brews.
of that. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah,
We're
with
part of
yeah.
Joe
Ian,
went to 50 West when Lily was very ill.
Ian and Grayson and Kelly and all those folks, like they've done an awesome job with building that into an amazing community where like once a month they go to take the families and go to different breweries around the city. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure they got out there. I'm like, man, like I haven't gotten to go to one,
Mhm.
but I follow them and see what they're doing, and I feel like more families need to know, like, hey, I can go do this and it can feel comfortable and fine.
There was a meetup at Fibonacci that I was like, oh, that'd be super fun, but we had like 10 different things scheduled that day where it's like, oh, we're not gonna be able to make it happen. But next time.
But they do a great job of like coming up with ways to entertain the kids too while they're there, which has been that much more fun. So
Yeah.
I like that.
I think Elliot had fun playing in the sand at 50 West volleyball fields.
I think every kid has fun playing on the sand at
Yeah.
50 West.
I haven't been to that location of 50 West.
You had not been, but now you have. I still have not been there.
Yeah, the one with the sand.
The old Hahana Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first time with Elliot that we went. We've been to the brew pub
Yeah.
across the street, and then we've been to Chili Coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys got to come out.
I
and,
am
and
too.
I'm glad that I was able to treat you with a bright tank tasting.
It was really
So
good.
That was so yummy.
That's one of my favorite things about going to breweries is getting a bright tank tasting of something, because you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is special. Like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna get it this way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it tastes ready to go. So maybe a little more time, a day here and there, but I think it's getting there.
Yeah. It's got a whole week to set in there and do its thing. So when it gets kegged here at the end of the week, like I have a feeling, like especially like once it runs through everything,
It'll be
Mhm.
really good.
it's
yeah.
gonna hit a whole nother level flavor wise.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how different it tastes.
Yeah. Well, you get
Off
to when you
tap.
come back and get some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will make that happen. I will find a way. Even if I have to like drag Lily out here, I will make it happen.
Yeah, it is a drive, but it's worth it.
Yes.
Get out to Deadlow, drink their Rose Goza, and for Mother's Day, and then for Father's Day coming up, the Welsh beer.
Oh yeah.
So that does it for this week's show. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us via email, which is craftparentingpodcast@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. And make sure to share the show. It's what helps our show grow.
And all this information is available on our website, which is www.craftparentingpodcast.com.
That's where we put all the show notes and some extras. Not many these days, but eventually we'll get there. Maybe.
And I am at Craft Parenting Joe on Instagram if you want to follow me.
And I am at Caroline Creates Crafts. Brock, do you want to let people know how to get a hold of you, or do you want to stay anonymous?
No, I'm fine. You can find me at a Cincy Dad on Instagram. That's mainly the one, and also on TikTok, but I don't put too much on there. So Instagram's really the way to go. A Cincy Dad.
Sweet.
All right, and with that, I'm Joe.
I'm Caroline.
And I'm Brock.
See you next time on the Craft Parenting Podcast.
Bye.